Abigail, thank you for coming on the Lessons of a Lashpreneur show. Why don't you tell everybody where you're from and kind of what you specialize in?
Okay. I am originally from Houston, Texas. I currently live in Oklahoma City. So like actually right outside of Oklahoma City.
Cool. Love it. Love it. So why don't you tell me kind of why you applied to come on the podcast and kind of where the obstacle is that you're facing in moving forward with the business?
Okay. So I currently work for a waxing franchise and I'm wanting to work for myself. I really just want to have like a salon suite and just kind of do my own thing. That's really why I got into aesthetics, was to be able to have my own business. But I find a very big challenge, like to go from one to the other. And I feel like sometimes, like, is everyone holding this secret and they just don't want to say like, this is how they did that.
They are, it will be revealed today.
So I'm just like, I was kind of like talking with some people like about like salon suite rentals, and I was talking with this girl. It was like her own, like she was doing her own build out, but she was trying to rent out a room. So I kind of contacted her and I wasn't even ready really to like do it, but I was just kind of, I feel like throwing stuff at the wall, right? Like I just want to see what sticks, kind of find out also like pricing, like what is the market here? And it was kind of discouraging because she was like, well, like, what clients do you have? Like, how do you plan on doing this? And it just was like, I could tell she's like, like she's been in this position before. So just like
she's a little jaded, a little bitter.
Yeah, it was just like, oh, like you don't
salty.
have clients. Like I really am looking for someone that like already has clients. And like I guess I can understand, but like if I'm just renting a room from you, like I don't know why that should really be a big
it's a liability on her end, because if you can't make rent, she's right. And that, so in some ways there is some wisdom in that. I don't know. It kind of sounds like there's a little bit of an attitude with it that wasn't supportive, but to do her. Okay. So what is the biggest obstacle from you figuring out what your next steps are?
So I would say probably like building the business, because it's very hard to take like from where you are, like working for someone else. Like obviously everyone has like a non-compete or something that you're kind of signing with them. And I definitely have like, I think a lot of like good ideas, and I'm not, like I always hear like, don't be afraid to like ask for the business. Like I definitely, even like with what I do now, like I'm always like talking with people about it, trying to get new clients. So I just don't know like kind of how to like make that jump.
Okay. So you do have a non-compete, correct? Which is very common in franchisee.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's pretty vague. And I mean, they're such a big franchise that I don't know how much even they're able to like totally hold that up. But
so that I think is actually a misguided belief, because the more franchise, the more money they can throw at making sure that they enforce it. So I would get clear on what your non-compete says, because it will have usually a distance from that location and a time period. That's usually the two components to a non-compete that makes it enforceable. And so it just gives you data to be like, okay, I can't work within 10 miles of this location. And that may not even, that like you may have a place that's much closer to you that's not even in that world. So you're fine. So getting clear on what are your options, right? Rather than looking at it as an obstacle. What are my options, right? I signed a non-compete. I take ownership over that. It's been a great job for me to learn and test out a skill set safely. Because what I love about where you're at is that it sounds like you've got the skill set down as far as the service and the result. Because most people want to go straight out of beauty school and into having their own business. And it's a whole other skill set when you can't get the result for the clients. But it doesn't sound like you're in that boat. So first is looking at what's in the non-compete in the contract, so that I can make sure that I'm not putting myself in a risk to get sued by a very large corporation that has tons of money to blow on lawyers and lawyers on staff, right?
Yeah.
So once we've got that figured out, then it doesn't have to be a full jump headfirst into the land of business ownership. Especially because, and people can't see this on the video, but I saw little baby bassinet in the back.
Yeah.
I don't want to put you in a place where you're stressing out so much about finances and overworking that you're actually missing out on probably the reason why you wanted more freedom was to be able to have the flexibility. So what would it look like to, yes, we can start to look at the business side of things and starting to grow a clientele now that you're going to not be locked into this location and the clients there being property of that business. but in a way that can grow organically without there being a heck of a lot of pressure on you. So what that might look like as an option is getting a part-time job out of the industry that provides some stability of income while you're still growing your income over on your own business until the business is at a really good point to be able to support you and you can leave the other part-time job. So you can do like in phases. So even if it's like, you can think about where you might even build clientele. Like if you go work at a restaurant, you've got some other servers there that might come in and be your first client. So you can look at where the opportunities to double dip, essentially, that's not causing a non-compete problem.
Okay.
Right? Or working up at a makeup counter at like Sephora or something along those lines where it can also be marketing for the business until the business is ready to stand on its own.
Okay.
So then what that next data point to help make a really good decision is how much do you need to be paying yourself for you to have that transition of now it's time for me to move fully into running my business full time. So we need to look at how much the business needs to provide for it to make sense for you to make that jump and be all in on your business.
Okay.
You have a number in mind?
So I kind of knew you would ask me. So I was trying to think like something. And I just read something earlier so this is not really like the number, but I read something earlier that said a lot of estheticians will pay themselves like an hourly, and then like something.
You're overcomplicating it. How much does your family need for you to bring in?
So I'm very blessed right now that like kind of my money is like extra money.
Beautiful. Awesome. Okay, cool. So then that's really a goal.
My goal, I would say, is like probably $3,000 a month.
Okay, cool. So for those of you that are in positions where you have to provide for yourself, the number will be much more clear. Like I need this much money to live a month. You're in a position where your money really is towards lifestyle, which is an awesome place to be. It's a beautiful place to be. And I'm glad you see it that way. So now it really becomes, how can we do this in organic steps that doesn't bite off more than you can chew, so we don't unnecessarily add stress. There's going to be stress in learning something new, which is running a business. But some people tend to take off more than they can chew, which comes by way of investing pretty much too heavily into rent. Right. So when we're talking about salon suites, when we're talking about like solo salons and the big franchises, they are highly, highly priced. So it really is best for somebody who has a base clientele to know whether they can afford it or not. You're not in that position yet because you don't actually have income coming in from the business yet. So I would rather you look at ways that you can rent a room or split a room with someone who isn't there on the weekends, and you could take it for like 6 hours on a Saturday and 6 hours on a Sunday and start there. Okay. Or look where we can get creative with rent so we're not taking off so much overhead, because some of those places charge $200, $300, $400 a week, and you don't have a base clientele to know whether you can generate those sales. So what is it we can look at where we're just basically making it convenient for somebody who doesn't work 7 days a week, that we can utilize their space, and if they include supplies in that or not, it's totally up to them. But how can we look at those, even those that are already in salon suites, they're not all working 7 days a week. Yeah. So could you get in there 2 days a week to start, work 2 or 3 days at the other, part-time place, and start to build from there? Okay. So that would be my recommendation on just getting started in a very, very low commitment financially kind of way. Okay. Don't worry, it's being recorded. You'll be able to listen back to this and take notes. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So that kind of gives you the location to work. Because you are US based in most states, you can't be home based. Now, anybody listening who's in other countries, they can be home based. So it's far less of the issue. But then you would look at what is if I'm renting 2 days a week, what does that rent cost look like? Kind of getting a ballpark right now before you commit to jumping in on that. Do you happen to know just roughly around, if you were to only rent 2 days a week, what that might look like financially?
No, per week. Okay. Like just to do, I know like that rent right now, like at those suites, is like probably $200 to $300 a week. Okay. So if we're looking at, we'll go on the higher side. We'll say $300 a week right now is for full-time access, right? Yeah. And what we're looking at, so that's about, call it $1,200 a month, right? And so if we're just looking to fill in a couple of those days, even if we look at $300 a month, you're basically covering somebody's rent for the week. If you're paying $300 a month to access it 2 days a week. So it's 2 days a week that they're not there and they're not producing revenue that they can be making money off of you. So we're looking at $150 a day, right?
which may be high or low. It just depends. But now we have a baseline of $150 a day for our rent expense. So now the goal becomes, without other business costs associated, can I make $150 in sales a day to at least break even on my rent cost?
Okay.
Okay. So what price points were you thinking of charging for your services?
So that's the other thing I kind of struggle, because I spoke with like some other, I don't know if I'll call her a business coach, but she was telling me like, make your like prices, but just kind of see like, she says like, don't look at like what the market is. Just kind of like, but I feel like that's such a hard thing to do. Like to just say like, like to just pull something out of the air.
Yeah. I mean, it's data, right? Yes, we don't want to base our prices specifically on what the market is seeing, in the sense of that most people pricing themselves have no idea what they're doing. So we're all just the blind leading the blind. But we also have to be mindful that our clients are also seeing those prices. So at least an awareness level of what they're seeing and what we're competing against. Not that you need to base your pricing on that, but just having awareness. So at the current location that you're at, what is the price point?
So like I said, we do like waxing. So like a Brazilian there is 63.
63. Okay. And that's how long of a service?
15 minutes.
Beautiful. Okay. And is there any sort of transitionary time between services, or it's like, okay, cool. All right. So looking at $63. Okay. And is that the service that you do the most of, that you want to specialize in?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So we'll just look at that. Yes, you can add on different arm wax, leg wax, brow wax, all that kind of stuff. But I really want to focus in on what you'll be doing the most of, which it sounds like is Brazilians. Cool.
Okay.
All right. So in order, and I'm just going to pull out my calculator while we do this. All right. So if just looking at the rent expense, you need to see about 2.38, and we don't see a third of a person. So we'll do 3 clients a day for you to at least break even on your rent expense.
Okay.
So that would be our first goal. Can we get to 6 clients a week?
Okay.
Right? And that would cover your rent. So that is the very baseline math of how we start to look at how much sales do I need to do, or how many clients do I need to do to cover my expenses? And we're just looking at the rent expense, but there's going to be other expenses in that.
Right.
So spoiler alert, I have a spreadsheet that has all of your startup expenses that you would need. It is kind of more Lash related, but you can plug and play all of your stuff in there. So for anybody looking to start their business, we have a prep and planning guide, which walks you through all of the questions you need to think through, locations, what to even ask when you're looking at commercial leases, your supply list, how much money you need to start up. So the lashpreneur.com/prep and planning is where you can get that download for free. We'll link it up in the show notes, but that would be a really great spreadsheet for you to go through and just start plugging in, like, okay, if I have to pay for booking software, that goes here. If I need to pay for internet, that goes here. Although if you're renting from someone, that's probably included in it. Or you can just use Wi-Fi. If you want your phone to be a part of your business expense, you can include your phone bill in it. So there's a lot of ways that you can look at what would it take for me in a month to run my business, and come up with a dollar amount associated with that. Once we've done that, we can figure out what would our break-even price point be. So let's just say that it would cost you $1,500 a month total to run your business when you're working 2 days a week, renting a space from somebody else.
Okay.
And that includes all of your other costs, your supplies, whatever else would be included in it. So $1,500 a month. Okay. And so do you want to do the $63 price point? Are you comfortable with that? Would you want to do less? Would you want to do more?
I feel like probably less. I definitely have looked like at other service providers in the area. And I feel like theirs are in a similar, I would say probably 50 to like 75. They kind of like vary in there. But I definitely feel
Why would you be less?
Less than there. I just feel like I don't know.
We don't have a reason.
Yeah. It just, for me, I feel like it's a lot. And I think like I always tell my boss there, like, we're like at a newer location, like, what are we giving them to get them in? Like, yes, like you could make people fall in love with you. That's the only thing really you could do. Like, other than that, like you're all doing waxing.
So keep in mind, you have a very quick service time
Right.
So you're giving them a lot of convenience. And even if they are in pain, it's very quick and over with compared to other places that do 30, 40, 50. I mean, I've had long Brazilians, they're miserable, right? So there's the convenience, right? And if it's a specific franchise location, now that may be their differentiator is, and I tend to see a franchise location for the reason of I actually like their wax best than anywhere else I've been because I get less ingrowns. And just maybe it's even their application style, which you are taking with you. So cool thing. So let's keep it, let's look at a $59 price point because I'm looking more strategy and people, right? So it's $4 difference. It's not that big of a difference, but people, because it's in the 50 range,
right?
Well, as opposed to $60, like $59 and $60 is $1 difference, but the pricing psychology, people will spend more at 59 than they would at the 60. So let's just look at a $59 price point.
Okay.
Now, if we have $1,500 in sales a month and we have a $59 price point, we need to do 25.4. We'll just keep it at 25, or we'll round up 26 services a month to break even. Okay. So if you're doing 26 services a month, there's 4 weeks in a month. We have to do about 6 to 7 clients a week. Okay. And so we're looking at 3 to 4 clients in a day for you to break even.
Okay.
So that's not paying yourself. That is just you being able to afford to keep the doors open, to keep clients coming in, right? So that's the math that I want you to solve for. I don't know what your operating expense would be. That's where you got to kind of start just writing it out. And in that spreadsheet, it'll give you a lot of ideas of where you may need to spend money. And this is where we start off with a really lean business. Okay, if it's going to take me $1,000, how many clients do we need? Is it realistic, do you think, for you to be doing anywhere from 3 to 4 clients a day?
Yeah.
Or how long do you think it would take?
So I've been working there since July and we're like a brand new center. And that's about what I see there. So, I mean, that's like,
so you're only doing about 45 minutes worth of work in a day?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
I'm doing a
suck
lot
at
of sitting.
marketing. They really suck at marketing. I'm just going to say that. Hey, franchise, if you're listening, contact me. I'll help you. Yeah. For you to only be working about 45 minutes, or actually revenue producing during the time, I think you could probably do a lot better for yourself when you're in charge of the marketing, right? Because really what you could be doing, even if you're only working part-time, you could be taking 12 to 15 clients a day, 4 hours, right? And if you're doing 12 to 15 clients, we'll even go conservative, 12 times your $59 price point, you could be doing $700 a day, right? And that's 4 hours of work. That's pretty good, right? So really, I think when you get that number in place of like, how many clients at this price point do I need? Then we start to solve for that. That's the goal, the first goal that we get. So I want to get to 3 clients a day, the 2 days a week that I'm working. Then we can start setting marketing goals. Okay, what is it I need to do? I'm going to talk to, my friends and family to come in. I'm going to talk to people I see on the street. I'm going to maybe start an Instagram page and start posting there. I might, have my friends leave reviews so I can start building up reviews on Yelp or Google, but then we start to learn for the marketing side of things. That's how we create awareness. It might also be really nice if the location that you're working in is not in competition with you. So if you're renting a suite from somebody who does lashes or facials, and they don't really do full body waxing, you can leave your cards there, or hey, say like, if you want to trade services, I'm happy to like offer your clients a discount. So we might discount our $59 service as a new client special that they can come in for $49 on their first Brazilian, but then it'll be up at the regular price for everything after that. So there's a bunch of different ways marketing wise we can look at, but now you have a goal to set that when I'm doing 3 clients a day, the 2 days a week, I'm covering my cost to keep the business open. That is the first part in running your business, is getting to that break-even point. Okay. If we're in that break-even point for too long, we got to reevaluate some stuff. But generally speaking, it can take you a month, maybe 2. But again, your income is not super dependent on you, and you'll have another part-time job if you want it, to be able to support you staying in that place where you're not able to pay yourself. Because once you get past that break-even point, that's where your pay starts to come in. Okay. Right. So when you're doing more than that $1,500 a month, if that's what your operating expenses are, now all of a sudden we're able to pay ourselves. Right. Most people want to spend more money on supplies or keep investing back into the business, but start with paying yourself at least something And then if there's anything left over after that, sure, we can invest back into the business. But
Okay.
for you, the goal would be getting those metrics in place of like, what is my first goal? Because it's so much easier for you to be like, I just need 3 clients that day. Now I have 1, I have 2 more to get in a day. As opposed to, I have to make $1,500 in a month. Where's that money coming from? That can be overwhelming. Keep it bite-sized.
Okay.
How are you feeling about that?
Good. It definitely gives me like some clarity about things, like a different way to look at it, I feel.
Yeah. What, any obstacles or objections or fears coming up for you as we've talked through this?
So the first thing I feel is like, where do you find this like person? Like you're saying, like find someone to rent a room from.
Well, the lady that you talked to about renting a full room, be like, hey, when you do find somebody, if they're not going to use it all full days, I can help contribute to some of that rent if you'll give me 2 days. Right. So you already have 1 contact. Now, maybe she had a little bit of an ego and attitude.
Yeah.
But when they rent out a room, right, they're still the landlord, essentially, even though they're the salon owner, they're still the landlord. So if they can even charge what they were going to charge for rent and you come in and add more rent on the days that they're not there, that could be something that gets worked out. Any of those salon suites, you can just walk through there, or if you know somebody in those suites and be like, hey, can you put the word out that anybody wants to rent out their room for 2 days a week? Like, I want to do that. I want to help with the rent. It's going to be much easier to find that than find clients, because this you're actually helping save them money because you're paying them on the days they're not there.
Okay.
And it doesn't have to be the perfect situation. It's a short little period, because here's what's going to happen is, let's say 3 months from now, you're more than breaking even. You're doing maybe 10, 12 clients a day. And you're kind of at the point where you're like, I need more availability.
Yeah.
Then it might be that you have to actually look into a place that you have full access to, or that you're renting out 4 days a week or whatever. But now you have sales data to know what you can comfortably afford.
Okay.
So if all of a sudden it's $1,500 a month is going to skyrocket to $2,000 or $2,500 a month because you're taking on rent, now we could go back to, with my current clientele, can I support that? But also knowing that you're opening up more availability. Right. So once you've created demand and now all of a sudden there's less of you and your time availability for the demand that you have, when we open up more time, we can take that demand. So it's less of this transition period of starting from scratch like you're doing right now.
Okay.
Yeah. So I love this journey.
Yeah.
I love it. It is one heck of a roller coaster. Just know that it gets easier. It is totally normal for you to want to quit and give up and go get a job. I still do that 7 years, 8 years in. Right. So just know that it does get easier, and you're already ahead of the game because you're already looking at as a business and trying to be strategic about it, because most people just get into it and then they realize they have no idea what they're doing. And then it's costing a lot of money and they come to me crying in the DMs. So you're already ahead of the game.
Trying to stay that way.
Yes. And as somebody who started their business when her child was very, very young, I want to encourage you to really focus in on the season of bonding with the baby and know that there will be plenty of time for you to build your empire. I love that you're doing something for you and it's not just all mom world. I totally resonate with that.
Yeah.
Just don't let it overtake your life.
I will not. I won't.
Awesome. Well, if you have any other questions, let me know. Otherwise, I'm going to refer you to go download that prep and planning guide, and that will give you a lot more steps and a lot more things to consider and give you some stuff to work through. And then keep me posted in the DMs of how it's going and what you found and, how we can support you in that.
Cool. Absolutely. I thank you so much for your time. I truly appreciate it so much.
Cool. Thanks so much for putting yourself out there to come on the podcast. I appreciate it.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much. Have a
good one,
afternoon.
Abigail.